Hello. Today, I'm going to cover off on how YouTube censored my last video. Yes, that's right. YouTube took down my last video, a channel with about 40 something subscribers, on the basis that I said something that went against the medical consensus according to them, the WHO and quote, local health authorities. I'm going to get into that. I'm not surprised by it because, I understand their policies. I understood their policies. And really, I think I was just testing the waters as far as even using YouTube at all. Because basically, I would just like to say right off the bat that this is going to be my last video on YouTube. And I'm going to be switching over to Odysee, starting with my next video. I've already started the process. So if you're one of my not many followers so far, you can go follow me over there if you'd like. I am at NB Austin Books on Odysee. So that'll probably start next week. I'll probably post my first video there next week. But today I'm just going to talk about what happened with getting deleted last week. And basically this is going to be my farewell YouTube video. It's particularly frustrating because I was just starting to get a footing on live streaming. I think last week was probably the best video I had done to date, maybe next to my interview with Olive Tree Bear. But because I, am figuring out the process, like, first of all, the tech setup, I've got this nice scroll bar at the bottom now. I've got better visuals, better audio. And I'm just in the process, of figuring this out, and YouTube goes and deletes the best video I've done to date, which was pretty funny, I thought. I was critiquing Ben Shapiro's, video in which he acknowledges how much he was lied to, right? How many lies were told to him by the very people who censored me, right? Ben Shapiro, that video was the perfect example, right? And it's almost good that it got censored because Ben Shapiro is a person who was tricked, right? He's a person who believed that there was data showing that the shots would stop transmission. There wasn't. That's acknowledged now. It was never even studied. And saying that is not what got my video deleted. Going the next step was what got my video deleted. And if you'd like to know what the next step is, then you can listen to me talk on Odysee because I'll get into this, but I'm not going to be censored by these people. And so Ben Shapiro, though, is the perfect example of the cost of YouTube's actions, right? There were people saying that there was no evidence that the shots would stop transmission. There were plenty of people saying that. And despite that, there were pressure campaigns, illegal pressure campaigns, to try to get people to take the shots. And so Ben Shapiro was fooled because he didn't have access clearly to those people, right? He thought the quote experts that he heard, the same ones that YouTube cites to date, which is the WHO and local health authorities, were telling him, were conveying to him clearly based on the way he heard them, a message that wasn't true, right? That turned out to be untrue and unfounded. And so YouTube's actions of deleting my video prove exactly, exactly that this problem is not going to be solved if you stay on YouTube, right? I understand that you can get around it by saying things like, jabberwocky and using other language, but that's not something that I'm going to do, okay? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to you know, my field of interest, first of all, is COVID. I wrote a book about it. I've been on this topic now for the last 2 years, understanding it inside and out, researching it as much as I can. So for me, maybe for some other, streamers, that's not their first topic to talk about. Maybe they want to say stuff about it, but they can't, so they just stay on YouTube. I'm not going to do that. So I'm switching over to Odysee because I think that even using that other language, it just prevents you from saying the truth, from saying what you believe to be true. I don't support that. I don't even, what if someone comes to your channel and they don't understand what Jibberwocky is, like how are they supposed to know, or jabby jab, like how are they supposed to know your whole stance on it? And I can't convey my whole stance by talking like that. And I'm not going to spend my video thinking in my head about which words I can't say. It's just not going to work. And so, but to get back to what happened, again, I took the next step, right? Today's accepted narrative is that, yes, we never tested for transmission. That's the accepted narrative today. That wasn't accepted yesterday, but now you can say that because now Pfizer has admitted it. So, you can't suggest that there's other things Pfizer hasn't yet admitted, but that are true, right? You can't suggest those yet. You have to wait, right? You have to wait until the criminals themselves confess to their crimes. And you also probably can't even call them crimes, but again, I'm not going to not say that. I actually was able to look at what YouTube said you can and can't say, and it's absurd. But I'm, for this video, I guess I have to, abide by these rules. And so YouTube says, based on specific things I said, which specific next steps after transmission not being stopped, that my video has to get taken down because it doesn't follow the consensus of the WHO and local health authorities. Now, first of all, I am a professionally accredited statistician. Okay, I studied for a while. I am an expert in the field in the field of statistics and morbidity and mortality. Does that mean that I'm right all the time? No. Okay, I'm not saying that means that my opinion is total. But what I am saying is that I'm a local health authority, all right? I'm a local person with expertise on morbidity and mortality, like I said, and I don't agree with their calculations. Now, does that mean that I can't state an opinion? On YouTube, yeah. On YouTube, yes, that's what it does. That does mean that. Now, I get that YouTube is a private company. They can do whatever they want. And so I'm going to move on to a different company that is not satanic, right? I'm going to go to one that does believe that if you go to the doctor and they tell you that you have cancer, that you should be able to go get a second opinion. Because that's what YouTube's saying you can't have. Imagine going to a doctor and they say you have cancer. And you're just like, oh, God. And the doctor's like, you're going to need to get chemo for the next 3 years and radiation for the next 10 and then surgeries every day for the rest of your life. And you're like, that sounds a little excessive. And you say, I think I'm going to go talk to another doctor because that sounds excessive. And then that doctor says, no, you can't. This is the consensus of local and global health authorities. Never mind the fact that local and global are two completely separate things. And there's no definition of local, okay? YouTube has no definition of what local health authorities means, right? And nor do they have any barometer of a consensus of it. What percentage? Is science a democracy all of a sudden? What percentage does it take for you to say that it's a consensus? Did you take a poll? Because if you did, I know for a fact that there were 50, 60, 70,000 doctors that signed doctors and scientists and local health authorities that signed the Great Barrington Declaration, and you ignored that. Do you have the poll that shows them as a percentage of the ones that, agree with you? Where are the numbers? I don't see the numbers. And even if there were numbers, this isn't how science works, okay? Science isn't based on consensus. If I disagree with the whole point of science is that you can do studies and do and practice the scientific method and see if what the consensus is right or not. If you can't disagree with, quote, science, then it's not science. And just saying that there's a consensus doesn't mean that it's right. This is what, like, these liars, these just constant liars, this is when they say democracy, this is why they say it. They say that they believe, they want there to be a consensus, and they want themselves to be able to control things through a consensus, but they manufacture it, right? They manufacture that consensus. They say the WHO is the consensus, right? Whatever the WHO says is the consensus, and all of the local health authorities agree. Who are the local health authorities? Do you have a definition of that? Like, what does that mean? Right? How local are we talking? And in the past, it was just the WHO. So now they say the WHO and local to make it seem better, but it's not, because they don't define it, and you don't get to disagree. How do I petition the WHO? How do I get my grievances redressed from the WHO? I don't. They don't represent me. They're not my doctor. But according to YouTube, they're everyone's doctor, and you can't disagree with that. So that's fine. I accept that. I accept that in YouTube's insane land that you just have one doctor. But I'm not signing on to those terms of service. I don't agree with those terms, And I think that if this is how YouTube acts, which it has been for a decade, this isn't new, but like, if this is what YouTube is, how is YouTube not a publisher, right? YouTube is saying that only specific opinions can be allowed on the platform. Okay, well then YouTube's an editor. I have a link sourced in my book that says that, and I think it might be directly from YouTube, I don't remember, but that YouTube had deleted like over 1 million videos over the course of the alleged pandemic. Okay, 1 million. That's editing, right? They're saying what can and can't be said on their platform, and so they're a publisher. Why are they treated like a platform? They're not an open platform. They're clearly not acting like a public utility that people, are free to use as long as they adhere to the laws of the United States. This isn't an American platform. Sorry to say it, but it's not. It doesn't follow the edicts of the Constitution, and on top of that, it openly admits to collaborating with foreign bodies like the WHO, which have no bearing, again, on my health or health decisions. And so that's why I'm switching. And I recommend everyone switch too. Again, I don't agree with this idea that you just use different rhetoric. I mean, I guess you can. I'm not telling anybody what to do. You can stay on YouTube. YouTube is a popular platform. It is probably, for a streamer who makes money here, I'm sure it's the best, source of income because people generally use YouTube for videos. But if you're going to not say things because they tell you can't say things, that's crazy, right? I think that's crazy. I think saying jabby jab instead of gene therapy, which is what it is nuts. And it got my video deleted. My opinion, me saying what is got my video deleted. So I'm gone. I'm switching over to Odysee. And, it's just, it's not even really infuriating because they're losing, right? They're losing. And you can see that kind of with Twitter now where all of these people who these corporations convinced were exalted, right? All these technocrat, liberal, whatever you want to call them, people who were raised up on this pedestal to think that they can censor anyone they want, and it's just their worldview that gets pushed everywhere, are now losing the Grobler football match because Twitter has been taken over by people who don't agree with them, right? And so now they're getting kicked off, and they're all upset because the people who disagree with them are not getting banned everywhere they go. Well, this was inevitable, first of all. Like, YouTube losing is inevitable. You're seeing it with with Facebook losing all sorts of employees, and what's the other, and Twitter, itself losing all sorts of employees until like now it's switched in its mission. This is going to keep happening. Disney, all these companies are just going to keep getting hammered by this insanity that they have to follow in order to get more debt money from the banks. And the people the victims, the people who made victim currency adhering to it, are going to continuously, more and more and more, just be beyond belief that their opinions now are going to be the ones that are banned, because they are. That's already happening. A friend just sent me a link the other day of this chick on Twitter who said that she, for a while, stopped reading books and stuff by white people because whatever the stupid reason. And now she's going to start again because she wants to get deeper into the mind of the rich white oppressors or some shit. And that tweet got deleted. And she can't believe that it got deleted. She's like, how is this possible that my overtly racist tweet got deleted? And this, and I don't think it should be deleted. I think she should be able to say that and expose herself as an insane psychopath. But this is the world she created for herself. These are the standards that she created. And finally, after a decade, now they're having to live by it, right? They're having to live by the sword and die by the sword. And now they're dying by their sword. And I'm for it, right? I'm going to keep switching over to places like Gab and Odysee, and places where, that actually stand for things that Americans believe in, which is like free speech, and free speech within the bounds of reason, right? I've come to think that we should go back to kind of censoring lewd speech. We've gotten to the point where society is so degenerate that, I think that some of it should not be promoted. But at the same time, I can't even come on here and say my opinion about a medical issue that affects the entire world, one that I've studied and wrote a 600-page book about. My video gets taken down when I talk about that, right? When I talk about that, responding to a video that Ben Shapiro made, where he said that he was tricked, okay? He thought, because of the censorship, because he wasn't exposed to different opinions, he thought that there was data or a study that existed somewhere that said that these shots would stop transmission. There never was. It never existed. He found that out the hard way, that he was lied to. And YouTube is still censoring me for taking it to the next step. That's crazy, okay? That's crazy. And it's expected, but I'm, again, switching because of it. I'm going to be on Odysee once again. I'll say it for the last time. You can find me there at NB Austin Books, just like on Gab and Instagram, at NB Austin Books, where I'm not going to not say the whole truth about this issue, which again has destroyed the lives of millions and millions of people, and is continuing to, and will only continue to until people, continue saying the truth and writing books and acknowledging and not speaking under their breath about this issue, which is again directly responsible for millions and millions and millions of people dying. Okay, so we're done with that. We're done with that. Now, again, because this is my last YouTube video live stream, not my last live stream, my last YouTube live stream, I wanted to end it on a positive note. And because we have Thanksgiving coming up in the United States, I just want to say all the things that I'm thankful for. And we could start here because I am thankful for COVID and for the last 2 years, and even for the censorship. I am, because I now, for the first time in my life, really, like, as evil as things have gotten, right? As horrible as people have behaved for the past decade, it's always been like this, right? It's always been like this. There have always been evil people, and there will always be corruption, and you can never get rid of all the corruption. But now it's so obvious, right? It is so, these people don't even attempt to hide who they are, right? Like I said, this chick on Twitter is like, literally said, like, I don't read white people, white men. Now I will, just spitefully, right? And while that maybe used to make me kind of like confused and annoyed, now I'm just like, this is great because we could just avoid these psychopaths. It's fantastic. The psychopaths have no way of hiding who they are anymore. They publish it all the time, and they might have been, they were in control for at least a decade of the institutions, but that's collapsing now. Like we knew it would, right? Like anybody who had any pulse on what was happening knew it would, that their reign of terror would end. And it is ending fast. And now, I think now we're at the point where, and I'll talk about this in my first video on Odysee, that I think it's going to start flipping, where the people who are anti-woke but are not anti-narrative are going to start being the ones who seem really twisted, right? There's a speech that a Canadian general just gave that is exactly this idea, right? Where he acknowledges the evil of wokeness, but he goes along with every point of the narrative. And I can't talk about that on YouTube, so I'll talk about that on Odysee, but I'm going to go through his entire speech and explain why it's no better, right? It's no better. But what is better is that as the narrative gets more and more and more insane, it becomes more and more easy to identify the people who suck, the people who are deadwood, and it becomes also a lot easier to identify the people who aren't, to identify the good people, the people who, would stand by you in a war, right? Who, not that we're going to have a war, but the people who would have your back when things get hard, when the chips go down, they would be there for you. They would stand by you. There has never been a more obvious time in identifying those people. And for me personally, I have experienced a lot of that in my life. My friend group has become much more tight, much more truth-driven, much more funny, just in every way, right? I am now surrounded by people, whether it's in real life or in the virtual world, that laugh. They know how to laugh. Like literally, the opposition doesn't laugh at things. They don't make jokes about things. They don't think it's okay to. And so, we're in a dividing point where it felt isolating at first. Social media presenting these crazy points of view, how many crazy worldviews there are, felt really isolating for a while. But now, the constantness of it has really forced people who are opposed to it to kind of band together and make better things, make better platforms. And so I'm really grateful for that. I'm really grateful for the better platforms, the places that are not affected by this madness, because, I found that, I use Instagram sparingly. I've found a place like Gab that actually believes in free speech, where you could actually write whatever you want, and has people who abide by a worldview like I abide by, that we should probably try to limit degeneracy a little bit, and live by the ideals that America was always supposed to live by, that it always, strived for, that my ancestors came here for, right? And so, yeah, I'm grateful for that. I'm also grateful for my wife, who got married to last year. Getting married was the best thing I've ever done in my life, and I think that in a lot of ways too, like, not only did I get married right, during COVID, right? But I met her either a year or two before COVID. I don't honestly, while I'm doing this, my brain is spiraling, so I don't have everything off the top of my head. But it was right before that we first met, and I'm grateful to God for that. I'm grateful that these events, this craziness, brought me back to God, and I think that process is what also brought me to my wife, which marrying her was like I said, the best thing I ever done. I didn't have to go through COVID, something as crazy as COVID, alone. And not only alone, but I also mean like alone, because you could marry somebody and your paths could completely diverge during COVID also if you're not on the same page, right? You could be seeing through the whole thing, and then they might not be. They might be completely all in on it and fear porn every single day, and you have to kind of live with that every day. No, that's not going to work. That would never have worked. I definitely would have broken up with my then girlfriend at the time if that was the case, because it just wouldn't have, our worldviews would have diverged. And I'm, grateful to God for convincing me to be just very honest with her up front, even before that, about who I am. And she was honest with me about who she is. And it led to a situation where we went through one of the hardest things the world has ever had to go through together. And, as crazy as COVID made me to some extent, because I was super in on the details, right? I mean, again, I wrote a 600-page book about it. I was super, being that this was my profession also, it was something where I was fixated on the events that were taking place because they didn't make sense to me, right? Based on my training, based on my studies, that what was being done methodology-wise and otherwise made no sense to me. And so it became kind of this obsession to some extent to get to the bottom of what was happening. And she centered me, first of all, during it, but also after, because being that, you write, I went through a lot of emotions writing this book about it, because when I first started writing about it, it was the kind of book that I would have imagined would get banned everywhere. And then as time went on, because that was at the height of the pressure, as time went on, things started to shift. And RFK Jr. came out with a book specifically not about the whole thing, but about Anthony Fauci. And then, the Supreme Court ruled the way it did, and things started to really turn. And so for me, I went from this fear that, this book would never be acknowledged by anyone because like the censorship would be too strong, to this fear that everyone would know the material already and wouldn't care. And so I had to get to a place where when it ended, when it was really over, when the narrative was really dead, where I had kind of moved on, but, didn't completely move on, like, still learned what I learned from it and would use my knowledge for the good, right? And not be consumed by it anymore. And my wife really helped with that, and so I'm really grateful to her for that. Again, 30 minutes in. I'm not going to do a super long one today. I'll probably end at like another 15 minutes, but just to continue on things that I'm grateful for. I'm grateful to be an American. I'm grateful to be living in America, and specifically, I mean Texas, because a lot of America is just not America right now. And that's not to say that it's not good for whoever's living there, but it doesn't believe in a lot of places don't adhere to or believe in the ideals that made America what it was, right? That the people who wrote the Constitution believe in. And a lot of this is because of immigration. I'm not going to go into that, but I'm grateful to live in a place where the founding ideals are supported in the culture. I'm not even talking about the government here. I'm not talking about who you vote for. I don't give a shit who you vote for. But if you don't generally believe that in freedom of speech and reach, okay, because Elon and the ADL, Elon has taken up the ADL message now that freedom of speech doesn't equal freedom of reach, which is retarded and makes no sense. But if you don't, I believe that in freedom of speech and reach, and I believe that if your opinion is the right one, that it will win in the end, right? So I don't believe in the complete censorship of truths, of potential truths, right? Some people are going to be wrong sometimes. I don't think they should, be completely shut out of everything if they're wrong, unless it's, anti-Christian, right? I do believe in some degree of censorship, but I think that in general the culture dictates where these things go, right? I'm not a politician. I don't pretend to have solutions for every for what governments should do. I believe there should be a government. I'm not a libertarian, but I don't pretend to have the answers for what it should do to make society better. I don't think that it matters. I think that if your culture is cohesive, then cohesive laws, sensible laws will generally follow, because the people who make the laws will have to be, part of that cohesion in order to continue in their position, right? They won't be able to remain in a position of authority if they have a cohesive society and they're insane. It just won't work. And so I'm grateful to live in a place like Texas where there is generally a meaning of being Texas. FloCal, what's up? Good morning. I heard your new song, by the way. It's pretty dope. I'm gonna be on Odysee soon. This is what my video is about today. But I interviewed Olive Tree and a couple weeks ago, and I'm gonna try to interview more people. So at some point, I'll probably try to have you on to interview you about your song and music and stuff, because I just want to interview people who create stuff. I like doing that. But yeah, I'm grateful to people like FloCal and people like the Bears who create stuff. I'm just talking about what I'm grateful for right now, by the way. And yeah, but yeah, what I was talking about was Texas and how Texas has an identity. Like, to be a Texan means something, right? Something very specific. You like barbecue and you like guns and you like you're proud of your state and your home. And I just am grateful for living in a place like that. Right? Just like I'm proud of being a bear for the same reason. It means something to be a bear, right? You have to be able to take jokes, and you have to tend towards being a creator, and you have to, be fruitful, and you have to be grateful. And there's specific things that it means. And this is what, I think Owen talked about it today, or maybe today, where he was saying that whites strive towards themes, right? And I'm grateful to live in a place and be surrounded by people who have a theme that I agree with, right? And whether that's Christians in general, or Texans in general, or Bears in general, I'm super grateful for those things. I'm grateful to have started to figure out how to stream. I think it's a lot of fun. I like talking. I'm not like the greatest at it. I'm sure it's not, as entertaining as like an Owen stream, or when Jim Bob has a crazy person on. I like Jim Bob's crazy people. I'm grateful for Jim Bob and Owen. That's another thing I'm grateful for. People who make me laugh. I like to laugh. I've always liked to laugh, and lately I've also been enjoying Theo Von again. I think Theo Von is funny. I know the guy is not, a philosopher or anything, but he's a funny dude. I like the way he just kind of talks about whatever. It almost seems like he's just making shit up sometimes. Like he'll be talking like, back when I was in elementary school, we had this kid who had a gimp leg. He had a gimp leg, and his mom used to call him basket case. We never understood why he called him basket case, but turns out he was a woman the whole time. And he just says like random shit like that, and I find him funny. I saw him live a couple years ago. So yeah, I'm grateful for comedy. Very grateful for comedy. And I'm grateful to be switching over to Odysee also, because Odysee is kind of like the most generalized streaming platform that I've seen. I like the kind of I think it's it has the best chance of competing with YouTube, I think, because one, it doesn't have the insane terms, which is the obvious thing, but two, the only alternatives that I really see are like Nick Fuentes has like Cozy TV, and then another guy has like Comfy TV, and then there's all these like, I know like Owen's starting up Ladle.tv, and there's all these very specialized things, and I get that, and it's not like I wouldn't stream to like an Unbearables type of streaming if there was one, or if I had the opportunity to do that, but I think the generalization is pretty good, just in terms of because me as a user, when I'm using Odysee, I'm looking for a variety of videos. Max, what up? How you doing? I'm just saying what I'm grateful for right now. I was talking at the beginning about the fact that my last video got taken down. I was like basically reviewing Ben Shapiro's video where he talks about the fact that he was tricked, and he's so sad that he was tricked, and my video got deleted because I said the next thing, right? That basically that the thing that you can say now, and I have to be careful about this because my last video got deleted because of it, but the thing that you can say now is that transmission doesn't get stopped, right? But what you can't say is the next thing, which is that the opposite of that, it stops hospitalization and death, right? You can't say the opposite of that. You can't. That's as far as I'll go. But I said blasphemous things like that, and YouTube said that I went against the consensus of local and public health authorities. So my video got taken down, and I'm not gonna, keep using YouTube. So I'll be on Odysee. If you guys have an Odysee, feel free to go follow me on Odysee, and I'll probably be interviewing more people there and doing more fun things there, and saying more blasphemous things. But for now, yeah, I'm grateful that I've got people joining my live stream. That's awesome. And I hope you guys have an awesome Thanksgiving. I'm really just ending this video just kind of rambling about what I'm grateful for, because that's about as much as I feel like YouTube will let me say. I don't know if they'll let me say anything else other than sunshines and rainbows and everything's gay and whatever, I think that's all that you can really say on here. But what else? What else am I grateful for? I'm grateful that my dogs are in good health. 2 years ago, my dog had cancer, and so I'm grateful that she's doing good now. I'm grateful that I live in a pretty place. I think that Austin, for all of its sodomy, is a very pretty place, and I live in a very green hilly part of it, so I like that about it. And I'll have to get back on Odysee. You and some other bears seem to be. Yeah. I mean, it's like I was saying at the beginning. I get that you could stay on YouTube and say jabby jab or whatever. You could say all these fake words, and you can use rhetoric to kind of get around these rules. But my brain doesn't. I can't think like that while I'm streaming. Right? I can't think to censor myself while I'm streaming. It just doesn't. It's, first of all, it's boring because the whole point of this is to like just say what comes to your mind and and on top of that, you know, like I tend to talk about COVID, so because I've come to kind of see the world through that lens a little bit, and it's a topic that I have some expertise on. But just the idea even of every time you're going to say vaccine, you have to say jabby jab. I can't do that, right? It just doesn't work. And I don't know how to say the thing I said before without you know, losing my mind about how complex it's got to be. So yeah, I think Odysee is cool. Like right now, there's certain things you can't find on there, I guess. Like there's probably not a ton of music, for example, on there, and there's probably not a ton of you know, basic things. Like you could use YouTube for a lot of learning how to do things, right? I'm sure there's not as much of that on there, but most of the major streamers are there. So like I follow EMJ and Owen on there. I wish Jim Bob would switch over. I don't know why he doesn't switch over. I mean, I get that his topics that he talks about are not as censored on YouTube. So again, for someone like him, I guess YouTube is probably the best source of, I don't know how much money if he makes money directly from YouTube, because I'm sure they don't let him monetize himself, but he probably gets the most streamers over there, right? For me, I don't get a lot of people. I don't get more than a couple people watching while I stream because I'm still new at this. So I have no switching cost, right? But for someone like Jim Bob, I guess he's probably got some degree of switching cost where he's already got however many followers on YouTube, and he's probably not going to get a lot of them. He probably could. Don't get me wrong. I think he should. And could try to switch over and get the people who passionately follow him to switch, because it's not hard to sign up for Odysee and to follow people on there. But yeah, I don't know that he's gonna do that. I wonder why. I'd be interested to know why he stays on YouTube. It's like I said, probably just for the ease and the popularity and the viewership. But YouTube's just getting so obnoxious, and there's so many alternatives now that you can use that it just doesn't, I don't know, to me it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. For anyone who wants to say anything remotely I'm not even going to say controversial, just interesting. It just seems really weird to stay on here, you know? But to each their own. I'm still going to, like, I guess, use YouTube to watch someone like Jim Bob, but that's probably the extent of it. But yeah, so like I said, I'm gonna end it. I'll probably reach out to you, not super soon, FloCal, but at some point in the next couple weeks. You know, it's the holidays, so I'm not gonna stream a ton probably in December, but I'm definitely starting to do it more. And as I do it more, I want to talk to more people, specifically creators, about why they create what they create. And I'm a big fan of your music, so I'll definitely have you on. But anyway, happy Thanksgiving again. Look out. Go follow me on Odysee at NB Austin Books if you're on there at all. And otherwise, much love to everyone's family. Be grateful this Thanksgiving. There's way more to be grateful about than to be sad about. There really isn't much to be sad about at all right now. I think, like I've said over the course of this video, we're winning, right? I'm reading this book by Bonanza Bear, and his last chapter is called "We Won," and I haven't got to that yet, but it's true. We did win. You know, we won like 2,000 years ago. Jesus is why we won. But we won. Even today, we won, and we're gonna keep winning on this channel at Odysee. So I'll see you over on Odysee. Thanks again. Happy Thanksgiving. Talk to you guys soon. Later.